Would you like to just tell us a little bit about your ankle pain?
So it's a pain in my left heel that I've had for, I think, about 8 weeks, or it could have been longer actually, but say 2 or 3 months. I do a lot of walking, so that's when I first noticed it.
Okay.
And it's sort of kind of come and gone, but right now, especially now I'm talking about it, it's really starting to throb.
Okay. Right now.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
And so yeah, it seems to have been getting more painful.
Okay. So the next question is, what is the position or purpose of the organ? What does it do? So I'm just going to clarify now with Amy whether she's left or right wired. And there is a little experiment for you to do with this in a moment. Could you just clap both your hands together as if you're applauding? I knew you were going to do that.
Oh.
It's okay. How you would comfortably clap, how you would normally clap. Okay. And stop. Okay. So what we notice is, the same as myself actually, that Amy's left hand is on top. And you'll all be able to do this. You don't have to do it now, but you'll have to do this in a minute. And that gives me more information. So I now make a note that this is actually the left heel, and she's left wired. Left wired female. The reason for that is that the body, I'll put that down a sec. The body makes a metaphoric translation of our surroundings and of what things matter to us. So a right-handed person would meet the world predominantly with their right side. So for a right-handed person, they would experience their career, an equal person, an equal partner on their right side. They would experience anybody in a nurture position being expressed on their left side. And you can almost imagine it as if this is my sparring arm. When I meet my equal sparring partner, this is how I deal with the world on this side. Whereas my nurture, I would protect my children or keep my family, even if it's my parents, on this side. So I know the fact that you're left wired means that already I can narrow down that for Amy, if it's her left heel and she's left wired, it's not a nurture relationship, it's not a parent-child relationship, either where she's nurtured by her parents or she has children she's nurturing. It's not to do with that, it's more to do with a career or more to do with an equal person, an equal partner, or something that somebody she considers to be equal. Now this is very individual, because it can be that my job, my career is on my dominant side, but if I have a project, the project is my baby, and if the project's my baby, then that might be expressed on my other side, and my less dominant and my non-dominant. It could be that my mum's my best friend, and if I perceive my mum to be my best friend in a certain context, then that would more likely come out on my dominant side rather than on my nurture side, an issue to do with my mum. So it's just about having a conversation with somebody and actually trying to figure out how they feel about what's going on in their life, how they feel, but using this as a basis to be able to ask the questions. There are a couple of slides that I can tell you that as well. So I could already start to ask some questions about what's going on in Amy's career, but I need to know what the heel is for. So this is where normally, if it's a bone and a muscle, I'd be doing this and trying to figure out what's going on. So just while you're sat in your chairs, just try to figure out what do you do with your heel. And the question to also ask is, when does it specifically hurt? What do you do to make it hurt? Not that I like to bring pain to people, but it is good to work out what makes it hurt.
It's when I'm standing up straight and I'm putting my weight on it.
Okay.
And also just when I'm walking.
Okay.
So when I'm leaning forward, I guess, to take that forward and place it.
Okay. So
forward.
it doesn't. It's not a speaker, but it's just. So say that again, because that's
So
perfect.
it's when I move off from the heel to walk forward,
Okay.
but it's also when I'm resting on it and my weight is on the heel. But it's that sort of, the movement forward.
So just so that you can all kind of, I'll put that back, sit down here. So put that back into perspective with this. So what Amy's saying is, it's in particular when she starts to lean forward slightly and starts to move forward. So it is when she stands on it and puts her weight on it, but it's actually when she starts to move forward. Okay? And that was actually, although that was move forward. So I would start to formulate a question around what she felt. Do you remember the theme about the bones, muscles, tendons, ligaments? Is I'm not strong enough to do something. So not strong enough. So I would start to so rather than say, oh, well, I know what your problem is. You've got a problem with this, 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 and this. I would invite, and this is like Rob says, shining a light in the right place. I would invite Amy to think about what she didn't feel strong enough to do with her career or an equal person that she wasn't strong enough to move forward in. Now, the other thing that I've got to bring to the table before I put that to her is the timing. So she's already told me that it's been hurting. She's had it about 8 weeks. I don't know whether it's hurt constantly for 8 weeks or whether it's kind of come and gone for 8 weeks. But I'm going to use that as a guide, probably more for the whole period here. Oops, that was meant to be one of those. Normally what I would do is find out specifically what this time frame was, because this is my resolution. Do you remember? I know if it's hurting, it's in resolution, going to the gym. It's not in stress, because she wouldn't have any pain. If it's hurting, I'm asking her, what is it you feel better about or think better about that you've allowed your body to go into a repair? Because now it's repairing. That's why it hurts. It's swollen with water and all the activity of the repair is going on. If it started hurting 8 weeks ago, even though it's come and gone, so we might have another belief running underneath this, but I would pitch my question probably to do with this. So if it's been hurting 8 weeks, let's say that when it went off, there was a little healing peak here where the water got pushed off and the body was testing to see if she was strong enough. But she wasn't quite strong enough and she still had an issue. So, because in this point here, we also think about the problem again. And sometimes that means we fall into the trap of going through the whole thing again rather than just having a test about the thought. But let's say that she's had the test. So let's say I'm going to guess that she's had 4 and 4 weeks. So she's probably somewhere here. Although if it's very painful, more likely to be there, actually. But it's reoccurring. I would then formulate my question to say that if she's been in the bad pain 4 weeks and she's coming through towards the end of this process, I would know that that was 8 weeks as well. Another pen.
So you would know that the stress phase was 8 weeks as well?
Yes. So, because I know that the amount of time that goes into repair balances the amount of time that's in stress, and also the amount of energy. So however serious that was, it would need to be balanced on this side too. I can change that and play with that by not letting it go so deep and making it last longer. But the general perfect model, which most illnesses don't fit, but the general perfect model is that once I've resolved the issue, I have a similar amount of time as I was in stress. Now, if she's been re-triggering it, that makes it slightly more complicated. And if she's not in this phase, then this is not an exact model. I think she's more likely to still be stuck 8 weeks in here, really, because of the amount of pain she's in. Because after this point, she would be in less pain. It would just be a bit niggly, and she'd be aware of it still.
So does that mean that I've been I have re-triggered it.
So it's possible that
Possible.
whatever initially triggered it, when you have a little thought about it,
Yeah.
you still feel the stress. That initially is the problem.
Okay.
But just for demonstration purposes, if you were coming out the other end of it and you'd been in 8 weeks, my questioning would take me back another few months prior to that. So let's say I thought you were approaching here and this was 4 weeks. So it'd be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I go 12 weeks back, so we're talking a few months. I can either then ask her for that, or I can look for the actual, and I'm going to call it a significant emotional event. And it's to do with these factors. So my question would tend to be that 4 or 5 weeks ago, maybe, what was going on in your life that you felt better about an issue you couldn't move forward with in your career?
Yeah.
Go on. Okay.
Well, it's when I started to get clients
Okay. Okay.
for my practice.
Okay. So it may be that it was 8 weeks, 3 or 4 months prior to that, that she had a particular fear, a particular stress, or it may be a more general one. But a few months prior to that, there would have been a concern somewhere that, am I going to be able to do this? Okay, so can you see how the model fits? Now, what we know is that wherever Amy is in this process, she's in a state of repair. She should exit this program having resolved the issue because she's getting clients now. So the fear of not, and how would you express that that fear was? How did you feel a few months before that?
Fear that it wasn't. Sorry, fear that it wasn't going to work and I wasn't going to be able to have a successful practice. I was going to fail. Something that happened to me in my past was going to happen again.
So past event repeating. Okay. So some of those are pretty big issues, more core, I would say. So can you see how, because this is not a one-off event where, oh, I just had something triggered a concern in me that I then resolved, because there are some bigger fears, and there's been a past event where something prevented her from doing something, and she's afraid that internal thought of that this might happen again is actually preventing her from coming out of this problem. So even though she's got clients and she's actually resolved the issue, the mere thought of this past memory, or anything that happens just where perhaps a call's not returned, there's a little trigger that just says, but, oh dear. And if she enters back into this, it means she has to go through this again. So there's more stress. So what happens is it gets weaker, then it goes into repair. But then it gets weaker, then it goes into repair. So if we're stuck in this phase for a very long time with a bone or a muscle or a tendon, then we get a more serious illness where it becomes very weak. I actually snapped my Achilles tendon. I didn't know metamedicine and meta-health at the time. I tried to do something very stupid. My car had a flat tire, and don't ask me how I thought I was going to move it. I was in a very high level of stress and not being myself at the time. I tried to push it on my own with a flat tire. It obviously wasn't going to go anywhere. But do you remember I said about everyone being individual? If there were 5 people standing together and we all fell in the same way, the person who was weak because they had a concern that was affecting their back would probably put their back out. Somebody who had feelings of responsibility would probably put their shoulder out. Somebody else might hurt their knee because their knee was weak. So an accident is an accident, but putting the law of attraction to one side, biologically, if we're weak in a point, then it will be the point that takes most of the brunt. So it will be the point that gives the weakest link in the chain, if you like. So my Achilles tendon had not entered into any repair. It was just getting weaker and weaker and weaker until I went to push this car and it just went snap and shot up into this muscle and shot round my heel into the front part of the foot. it was excruciating, but actually I didn't realise that's what had happened. I thought I'd pulled a muscle because the pain was in the muscle. Because as the muscle comes down like that, it then turns into the ligament. So what happens is when it snaps, it shoots back up and it kind of just goes back into the muscle. So I thought I'd pulled the muscle. It was only when I went to A&E a couple of days later, having tried to drive a car and crashing it and all sorts of stupid things, that the test was you kneel on the chair like that. And so the nurse in A&E just said, just kneel on there a minute. And if you squeeze that muscle like that, look, your foot moves. Mine didn't move because it wasn't connected. So that was the simple test to say, oh yeah, I think you've snapped your Achilles tendon. Now, when I look back, was I in, and I'm left-wired too, so was I in a relationship with an equal person that I didn't feel able to move forward in? Absolutely. And there was no way of me being able to make that change and to get that to work, and it was when things were very difficult between Vic and myself, and it wasn't going the way I wanted it to, and everything was going horribly wrong, and I couldn't change it, and I just felt I wasn't getting anywhere with it. So I was in a constant period of stress. The repair actually was a physical repair, and now it's as good as the other one. It's fine. So it's totally healed. So in order to help somebody come out of the other side, firstly, an awareness is key. So we haven't done any therapy. We haven't done anything to actually change this problem. But how do you feel knowing that you're in a state of resolution around this issue? How does that feel?
It feels great because it wasn't a connection that I would have made without this information.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So.
And can you see that I didn't have to do very much? Because even when I asked Amy, when does it hurt? She actually said, when I move forward. So I didn't have to even come up with the words. She already knew, or her body knew, I don't feel strong enough to move forward in this part of my life. Or actually, yes, now I do, I can. So coming here today, if it's really hurting today, the fact that you're doing this, because it's to do with your career and it's going to help you in your career, will probably mean it hurts more today. So when somebody has a pain, it's okay to explain to them that it's a resolution, and it's a good thing that they have a pain. But the purpose of the process is to help go back to, so because we don't want people to go away re-triggering the same problem. So that's something that you can work on in particular. So when we do other therapies, we can kind of work around a problem quite a lot. But when someone has a physical issue that they want to change, then targeting the issue is really important. So thank you very much. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Brilliant.